We're playing buy, sell, hold today. We're talking about two quarterbacks, some volatile pieces that could, I think, rise in value or plummet in value. And we're playing buy, sell, hold, like I said. And we're starting with Daniel Jones here, Brian. So, first thing that comes to mind for Daniel Jones, buy, sell, hold. What are you feeling there? You want to buy him? You want to sell him? Or do you want to just hold?
Yeah. Fucking Daniel Jones. I think he's a solid hold, honestly. I think he's a fine quarterback too to have on your team. Like, you're not excited about it, but he's got the rushing floor in general. He's actually got a receiver this year with Malik Neighbors. So I think I'm not necessarily buying him, but I mean, for a late second to get a starting quarterback, I would definitely buy there, which is right down there on the banner. So I'll say buy.
Okay. So you're buying because you could potentially get him for a late second. As what a lot of sites, there's a couple different sites I use, Keep Trade Cut and Dynasty Daddy. This is kind of, the value they had him as, basically a late second. So that's fair. I think your original of a hold is probably what I would do, just because it feels like, if you're going to sell him at that price, his price could definitely go up if he's just kind of good like he was in 2022. 18.4 points per game. It was the QB9. All those QB9, QB19, by the way, that's all in points per game, by the way. So I like the hold here of Daniel Jones. You mentioned it, finally has a legitimate receiver for the first time. I remember looking at the list of like the players that have caught touchdown passes from him, and it's just like, it's awful. It's like really, really bad. Like, no one's recognized. I mean, guys like Slayton and Shepard, I guess, but you recognize Galladay, I think, caught one potentially. But it's really, really bad. And he finally has a legitimate receiver in Malik Neighbors, a guy that he could throw, a 3-yard slant to him and he could take it 70 yards. So, and those points go to Daniel Jones. So you talked about the rushing floor. That's always there. What did he run for? Like, I want to say like 700 yards that year in 2022. So what he ran for, I'm just double checking now. Yeah, 708 yards. So, he has that in him. And it feels like they kind of know, like, if they're going to run a successful offense, they're going to have to do that. But I guess the one thing that worries me is, well, one, that he could just suck, right? Like, we've never seen him be like a very good passer. And two is like Drew Lock is the backup. And I think the team kind of likes Drew Lock. And, he's definitely a better passer than Daniel Jones. I mean, he can do more with his arm. So I think it's a solid hold. I don't mind you saying buy for sure. But yeah, I mean, what do you give it, like a 50% chance that he gets replaced by Drew Lock, or do you think it's lower than that, higher than that? What do you think in terms of Drew Lock?
I think that if he stays healthy, which obviously was an issue last year, I think he's the starter all year. I don't really see like Drew Lock being better than him. Like, I can't even really imagine that world, honestly, just because Drew Lock. But I mean, weirder things have happened for sure. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of questions about the offense in general. Like, not just Daniel Jones, but they got rid of Saquon also, and who was the playmaker on the team, like the only guy. Pretty sure Waller's retiring, supposedly, maybe. I don't know. Someone's got to make a decision there at some point. Yeah. There's definitely not a whole lot to be excited about, but I'd say there's a greater, I'll say 80% chance that he starts every game this year, barring injury.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going back to that idea of like, they finally got a weapon, but that's kind of all they got. They didn't get
Yeah.
anything else because it's like Darius Slayton is considered the wide receiver too, and I think Darius Slayton's like led them in receiving for like 5 straight years or something like that, or 4 of the last 5 years or something. Darius Slayton's your number two. Wandale's like your 2 or 3. Jalen Hyatt, Allen Robinson's on the team. Isaiah McKenzie. It's like, like, yeah, they have Malik Neighbors. But what if Malik Neighbors isn't good for the first 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Or gets hurt, Like, he's never thrown for more than 3,300 yards. His career high in passing touchdowns is 24 his rookie year. Outside of his rookie year, he's never thrown 15 is his next highest. So, yeah, it's a little sketchy there. So that's why I'm worried about. I think it's actually. I don't know what percentage, but I think there's a good chance that Drew Lock, he's kind of on like I'm gonna take him late in dynasty startups or even trade super low for him just because he's one of the backups I think that could take over the job without an injury. And this coaching staff, Dayball, and if they have another bad season, they could get fired, like even though he won coach of the year in 2022, like that's how the NFL works. You get 2 years of disappointing, record and a top 10 pick again. Like they could just move on after their third season. And so they know that they need a win. So they're going to be quick to move to Drew Lock if Jones isn't no good, so.
Yeah, that's a fair enough point. And just like the next guy we're going to talk about, Jones, like his value can completely evaporate after this year, or even midway through the season, like you were just saying. So I think that's kind of the reason why we're talking about him, because he is kind of in that like almost no man's land. But again, how likely is it that your late second is going to turn into anything anyways, so.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And yeah, our next guy is, these are hopefully all players that, like I said, they're very volatile. They could go up in value. They could, this guy like Will Levis, if he has a solid QB 15 season, his value is going to increase. He's currently QB 21 in startup. He's going as the QB 25. But also if he just doesn't look good, he's going to be kind of worthless. So you see there a couple trades that they're considered even 2024 201, 2025 late first. If I'm getting that for him, I'm trading him. I'm selling him. But I don't think you can get that for him. I just don't know unless someone's like a Titans fan or a Kentucky college football fan and they love Will Levis. I don't see anyone trading a first round pick right now for Will Levis. Do you?
Probably not. Given like the class, like the 2025 late first is more realistic than the 201 this year, I would say. If because we know who's sitting at the 201, it's some combination of Brian Thomas, Bo Nix. Not that these guys are necessarily going to be there. Yeah, McConkey, Jonathan Brooks. Yeah. So I get that. Like, I think like. I probably would sell him at that point, but I do have some hopes for Levis this year. Given the addition of the offensive weapons there, they got Calvin Ridley, who they're saying they're going to work him in the slot, and that's kind of where he's thrived in the past, And yeah, last year wasn't great to start for Calvin Ridley, but I think you said in one of your other videos, like the dude's been out of football for 2 years before last season. So it took him a little while to get going again. And I thought he looked pretty good later in the season. They got Pollard, obviously, Pollard does not replace Derrick Henry, but I think the combination of Pollard and Tajay Spears will bring a little bit more dynamicism. I don't know. Their running game's going to be a little bit more dynamic than what they had with Henry. So I'm excited about that. And they brought in Tyler Boyd too, who's like a great wide receiver 3 for a team in general. We saw him be productive, surrounded by superstars on the Bengals when he was healthy these last few years. So
Yeah.
I think, the Titans definitely did the right thing surrounding him with talent. And who did they take in the first round? It was a lineman, right? Was it a tackle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a tackle.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're trying to protect him a little bit, obviously, like, his pocket presence is basically zero. He just doesn't seem to see guys like coming breathing down his neck. But I don't know. Couple that with like a little bit of a flash of a rushing game. He's not going to be Lamar Jackson because no one is. But I think we'll definitely know, and the Titans will definitely know, like, if he's the guy moving forward. Just, I don't know, not even that far into the season, honestly. Yeah. And so I guess that's like a long ass winded way of saying, like, I think he's a solid hold, and you're hoping for, like, if you are on the sell side, maybe just hold him for 6 games. Hopefully he does something to increase his value, and then it's easier to convince that person to get that first round pick from them for 2025. I don't know.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm selling if I'm getting essentially a first. 201's a first in this year. It's a second round pick, but it's essentially a first round pick, and then a late first in 2025, which could turn into more of a, that could be the 108. It's considered a late first, right? We never know how exactly things are going to play out. So I'm going to sell him for that. But again, I just don't think you can get him for that. But if you could, and we're just basing it off of, what a couple community based sites say is that you can. Yeah, but I agree with you, is that, like, you're going to know if he's good or not after this year. They're going to throw the ball more. They're not going to be the Titans of under Mike Vrabel where they just run. Will Levis could have one of those, like, Jameis Winston like seasons, 30 and 30, or, like, he can throw maybe, I'm not saying he's going to throw 30 touchdowns. He's going to have a lot of interceptions most likely. But, like you said, you got Hopkins, Ridley, Boyd, maybe Treylon Burks can show something. Chigakonkwo's a good receiving tight end. You got 2 good receiving running backs. So, they shored up the offensive line, which they took an offensive lineman last year as well in the first round. So you have 2 first-round talents at the tackle position, which helps them. So you're going to know. It's just, yeah, I'd rather just cash out on that first-round pick. And there is some rushing upside. It's funny, though. His last year in college, he actually ran for minus 107 yards because they count sacks as minus rushing yards for quarterbacks in college. But his good year, which is 2021, which is kind of why he went, a lot of people are looking at that year as, like, this is the year you should be looking at to evaluate him, because he had weapons. He had Wan'Dale Robinson and other weapons there. He ran the ball over 100 times and for 376 yards. So those are definitely designed runs. You're not running it 100 times because of scrambles. So we didn't really see it in the NFL. I think he ran for like 50, 60 yards or something in those 9 games he played. So I'm going to say sell, though, if I can get any first round pick for him, essentially, even if it's a random first. Anything else on these 2, Daniel Jones or Will Levis?
No, I don't think so. I mean, just real quick, because Levis was a rookie last year. You got to think too, like, where you got him, because he was basically, in the later part of the first round, just last year in rookie drafts. So kind of similar along those lines to Bryce Young, as far as, like, are we really throwing in the towel on this guy that quick? I mean, I don't think anyone has a strong opinion. I feel like more people don't like Will Levis than do right now, which means don't sell him just yet.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just trying to look at where he's going, and who he's going around. So in Dynasty Startup, it's basically right around the end of the 8th or the beginning of the 9th, and the other quarterbacks going like Stafford, Penix, Rogers. Those are like, and then Fields. Those are the next ones going in the next few rounds. Do you think that's fair? Right around there is like, would you take Levis over Stafford, Penix, Rogers, Fields as like your QB3, QB4 maybe?
It's really going to depend on like what your build is at that point, right? And you should definitely know, given 8 rounds in, right? Is that where he's going? Yeah,
end of the 8th.
Yeah, so I mean, you should know what your build is at that point. Like if you're more of a win now team, you go Stafford or Rogers. And if you're, like I don't feel super strongly about. I think I'd rather have Levis over Penix for now. Maybe that changes, but I don't know. I think he's right in the right spot. Honestly, I think I look at Justin Fields like as definitely like worthwhile where he's going, like almost 3 full rounds later.
Yeah.
I guess it's more like 2 full rounds later. And it's like, I mean, that's the move right there. I think I think I'd rather have Justin Fields over Levis, especially with that 2 rounds of value. So
I don't mind where he's going in startups, because you look at the other players, non-quarterbacks, like you're probably going to take either an older receiver or a running back who, you're year to year with. Montgomery, Zamir White, Pollard, like you're kind of going year to year with those guys. So I don't mind taking it. It's weird. I don't mind where he's going in Dynasty Startups. I just don't want to trade a first for him, and I want to sell him for a first. So
sure.
But yeah, that's it with the quarterbacks there. We'll be back looking at some running backs in the next video. So as always, like and subscribe. We'll catch you guys all in the next video.